You are welcome to online tutorials with From Eternity the Schoolboy. Today we are going to take a look at 1988 Ssce Physics Objectives. Question 1. The question says, which of the units of the following physical quantities are derived? I. Area. I. Thrust. I. Pressure. IV. Mass. The options are A. I, and IV. B. I, and I only. C. I, and IV only. D. I, and I only. E. I, and IV only. Now, let us take a look at the question again. The question says, which of the units of the following physical quantities are derived? Okay, in physics, we have derived quantities and the fundamental quantities. So, we also have derived units and fundamental units. So, the units of these quantities are known as what? Derived quantities, derived units, and fundamental units respectively. Now, fundamental fundamental quantities, they don't depend on any other quantity. They are on their own. They are the basic quantity upon which other quantities are derived. So, a combination of one or two of fundamental quantities give rise to to a derived quantity. So the same way, a combination of one or two fundamental units give rise to a derived unit. Now let's take a look at these quantities. Let's take a look at these quantities and know which of them is or are derived quantities and the one that is fundamental quantities. From there we can now get the answer. Now let's start with A. Area. What is area? Area is a unit. Area is a quantity derived by combination of one or two lengths. So basically, without wasting time, depending on the object or the figure or the object you are talking about, the area of any object you are talking about has a unit of the basic SI unit of meter cube. This is the SI unit. Sorry, I mean not cube. Meter squared. Cube is for volume. Now meter squared. Whether it's pi r squared, whether it is length times breadth. Basically, at the end, it will give rise to m squared, m meter squared, irrespective of the area you are talking about. Whether it is half AB, A plus B times height, trapezium, everything still boils down to meter squared, because this and this give us meter. This alone gives us meter. This is meter. This is meter square. Everything boils down to meter square. So the SI unit for area is meter squared. And meter squared is just meter times meter. So it is derived from a fundamental unit. So area is actually derived from fundamental unit, which is length. But this is length. This is unit of length. So area is a derived quantity derived from length, and length is a fundamental quantity. So this is a derived unit. The question says, which of the units of the following physical quantities are derived? So this is derived. I'll take it. Let's check thrust. What is thrust? Thrust is nothing but force in a fluid. So is what? Force. Then what is force? Force is mass times what? Acceleration. Mass is fundamental. Unit, SI unit, kilogram. Acceleration on its own is what? Velocity over what? Time. Velocity on its own is also what? Derived, which is what? Distance or displacement over what? Time. So area is actually displacement over time over what? Time, which is the same as what? Displacement over time what? Squared. Which is basically what? Displacement is a measure of what? Length, which is basically what? Meter per second what? Squared. As you can see, acceleration is derived from these two fundamental quantities. Length, whose SI unit is meter, and what? Time, whose SI unit is what? Seconds. So this is actually what? L per t squared. So acceleration is a derived what? Quantity. Mass is a fundamental what? Quantity. That means that force is a what? Derived quantity from mass, kilogram, length, meter, time, second. So this is a what? Derived quantity. Let's take a look at pressure. Pressure is defined as force acting per unit what? Area. So pressure is what? Force over what? Area. Pressure is force acting per unit area. So pressure is force over what? Area. So if that is the case, we have already established that force is a derived quantity from kilogram, meter, and time. So basically, force is a derived quantity. Area, we have already established that area is what? Meter squared. So pressure is a derived quantity. So pressure is a derived quantity. Now mass. Mass is a fundamental quantity. It's not derived from any other quantity. So mass is what? It's a fundamental what? Quantity. And what is mass? Mass has just the quantity of what? Matter. The quantity of what? Matter in a substance. That is mass. And mass is the same thing everywhere. So the SI unit of mass is what? Kilogram. This kilogram is not derived from any other quantity. So mass is a fundamental what? Quantity. So it's not a derived quantity. So let's look at the options. Option A says I agree, I agree, I good, IV. No, this is not the answer because mass is not a derived quantity. Mass is a fundamental quantity. Now B says I agree, I good, I good. I'll take this. Let's check the other options. This this has IV, so this renders the answer useless. I only. This one says I and I only. No. I is correct, I is correct, but they are not. I is correct, I is correct, but they are not the only one. I is also a derived quantity, so I will not take this. E says I and IV. I will take I, but IV is mass, and mass is a fundamental quantity. Mass is not a derived quantity, so this is not the answer. So the most appropriate option here is what? B. I, and I. So the answer to 1988 Ssce Physics Objectives question 1 is B, that area, thrust, and pressure are derived quantity. Thank you very much for your attention. Please, if you have any question, feel free to chat me up on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp line is on the screen. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. The name is From Eternity, the Schoolboy. Follow and like me on what? YouTube, on Facebook. The name is From Eternity, the Schoolboy. You can follow me on other social media platforms at From Eternity, From Eternity 83. God bless you. See you next time.